People have problems. Angel in Training Gary Coleman better have solutions, or else. Battle of the Network shows. Join Rick Brooks and Mike Kogel as they explore the TV of the 70s and 80s through hand-picked episodes of their favorite and not-so-favorite series.
Welcome to Battle of the Network shows. I'm Mike.
And I'm Rick. Hello, everyone.
And today we're doing our voter poll episode.
Yes.
Listener poll. Listener voter.
Yes. We asked people what they wanted to see.
Yes.
And they responded.
That's right.
And we tabulated the votes.
Yes. In various locales.
That's right.
We need to explain that.
Yeah, we kind of emphasized our Facebook group. And if you're not a member of our Facebook group, please join us. It's very easy to join. And we have great discussion in there. And you get the cool visual of the poll there. But we also took votes, through the website, through our mailbag at battleofthenetworkshows.com address. And yeah, we have a winner.
Yes. So we offered 3 options, all Gary Coleman TV movies, all titles beginning with The Kid.
Yes, I believe Gary Coleman buffs affectionately refer to it. This is the Kid trilogy.
Yes.
I don't know if that's the case, but I want it to be.
Right.
So I'm going to will that into existence.
So the options were in chronological order.
Okay.
The Kid from Left Field,
Mm-hmm.
The Kid with a Broken Halo,
Mm-hmm.
and The Kid with the 200 IQ.
Yes.
And we should say not just Gary Coleman movies, Gary Coleman-Robert Guillaume movies.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe one of the unsung comic duos of the late 70s and early 80s.
You were spot on with that assessment.
Yes.
That is true.
And dramatic duo,
Mm-hmm.
at least in The Kid from Left Field.
Yeah.
We call that a dramatic duo.
That's fair. They have a chemistry together, and NBC liked it enough.
Yeah.
I think Guillaume was like an executive producer on at least one of these.
Oh, wow.
It might have been like the third one, maybe.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a winning combination, and they kept them going.
Well, and I noticed that the director of the one we're doing also directed one of the other ones and at least one more Gary Coleman.
Yeah.
TV. He did a lot of TV movies.
He did. And he also did the movie based on the Batman TV show.
Yes, that's right.
It's kind of interesting. Yeah, you just a really interesting resume.
Yeah.
Guys. Tons of episodic TV and
Right.
TV movies and quite a career.
And the writer had some interesting credits too. Now, which one of them, quick tangent, but one of them worked on there was a Paper Moon TV series with Jodie Foster in it.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Yet another movie turned into a TV series that doesn't make a lot of sense.
Right. Yeah, it seemed to be quite a thing in that era.
Yeah.
Maybe that was like George Kurgo, I think was the writer.
Yes.
Who did a lot of stuff and was active in like Writers Guild leadership later. But yeah, so these were, industry pros. But so I don't know if you said what the actual winner was.
The Kid with the Broken Halo. Now, it did seem like some votes came in after the deadline. So on Facebook, it maybe looked like something else won, but based on all of your tabulations,
Yes,
it was The Kid with the Broken Halo.
Yes, we're looking at the totality here.
Yes.
But we appreciate everybody who voted. Thank you.
Yes, we even appreciate the person who wrote in a totally unrelated.
Yes. You know who you are.
Yes.
I think I've got to set up those polls a little bit differently
Yeah.
next time. It's not an unusual occurrence.
No. Yeah, so from 1982, I believe.
Yeah. Now, do you think this is the most famous of the 3?
I think so because it, spun off into a cartoon.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah, I think The Kid from Left Field is probably the least famous.
That's probably fair to say.
Yeah.
It was a couple years before, it was Gary Coleman's noticeably younger.
Yes.
And yeah, I don't think that gets played as much, whereas the Kid with the 200 IQ, I know I've seen that like within, it was probably 10 to 15 years ago.
Right.
But I remember I think they used to play maybe all these on I think it was the Encore channels when those were around.
I think they played some. I remember, I feel like some Saturday afternoon, I watched The Kid with the 200 IQ.
Mm-hmm.
You're like in the 90s.
Yeah. Okay.
Like, oh, I remember that movie.
Yeah.
I like that.
It seems like that kind of lazy Saturday afternoon movie.
Yeah. And probably the whole time, why am I watching this?
And I saw a preview. I saw a TBS promo for I think a 1980s showing of The Kid with the Broken Halo.
Okay. Yeah.
Very enthusiastic with the TBS announcer.
Yeah.
Just totally like selling it. It was like it was like a family adventure movie or something like that. It's on YouTube. you can see it. So
You know, all three are definitely prime Gary Coleman.
yes, for sure.
Yeah, especially this one. Like he hasn't gotten too old, but he's not that like first season or two of Different Strokes sort of. I don't know.
That's right. Yeah.
He's still small and cute and all of that, but he's also already a teenager.
That's right.
Even the kid, I thought that was interesting. I did watch the kid from left field, and that his character is his actual age, is 11.
Yeah, but could pass for younger.
Yes, but I mean, they could have just said he was, like this. He's no longer alive.
Right.
He's apparently 9.
Yeah.
I don't know, but yeah, he's smart and he's charming. And
Yeah,
he's Gary Coleman.
His charisma is evident in all three of these movies.
Yeah.
I think Lori she liked the Broken Halo best.
Okay.
But I know she liked the kid from left field one because he's just so cute in it.
Yeah,
he's like adorable.
Maybe because it had source material or something, but I kind of and I was watching it depending on what part of the movie I was watching as fast as double time. It still I thought it was not bad.
Yeah.
I mean, not great, but it was decent. Maybe it was not the most accurate depiction of professional baseball, but
no. I mean,
especially that Wrigley Field.
Yeah.
It was just some baseball field and they threw some ivy over.
Right. Yeah, I think and there's some weird ambiguities in all three of these.
Yeah.
But like the kid from left field, there's like I'll just say there's like an essential background information between the Gary Collins character and the Robert Guillaume character, former teammates.
Yeah.
It's never really resolved.
No, it's not resolved.
And it's not really explained very well either.
Yeah.
It's kind of an odd thing. And actually I have a theory about that movie that I might tell you off air. There's a certain way you could read. Let me just say this. There's a certain way you could read that movie.
Yeah.
As far as like the true relationship of those former teammates, Gary Collins and Robert Guillaume character, that if you look at it that way, it kind of makes some of the things make a little bit more sense.
Okay.
And especially the ending, the last shot, which of course I don't want to give it away.
Yeah.
But if you like, because the three of them, like with Gary Coleman, yes, exactly. I see a raised eyebrow there. I'm just saying. Oh, wow. I'm just saying it would explain some things that that are a little bit unclear, that don't make a lot of sense in the narrative. Okay. But each three of these movies, I mean, they're trying to put a lot of plot or like kind of big things into like an hour and a half or whatever.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
But yeah, I think they're all good. I like all three of them for different reasons.
Yeah. They're not really comedies. I mean, comedy in the sense of funny.
Right.
I think they're comedy in the traditional sense, maybe. But,
yeah. They're like they're really like light dramas.
Yes.
The light dramas, and I think the 200 IQ. It starts out because Gary Coleman's character Nick Newell, the young genius. I like that name. He makes all these like self-deprecating jokes, and he's like being charming. So he's like being funny within the story itself.
Yeah. But
then it plays out like he's got like real issues and stuff, and so like this very tame version of an 80s college comedy.
Right. Yeah.
Which I love. That's one reason I love it, is because you have like the way it handles certain subjects. Like it has like a stereotypical like frat guy set up as a nemesis, but he really doesn't do that much that's evil. I mean, he's actually not that bad, and they wind up being like kind of allies at the end of the movie anyway. So it's so wholesome that I can't help but enjoy that. It's fascinating to me.
Yeah, and that one I did not have a chance to rewatch.
Okay, I'll take a look at that. And that,
as I told you, I misremembered almost all of the actors in that one. So
yeah. That's right. You were close.
I was close. Yes.
It was almost like you were like casting like an alternate version of High School USA.
Right. Yeah.
Which is sort of like that movie is, but it would be a good companion piece to High School USA.
Yes.
I recommend everyone.
High School USA, the college years.
The college look to watch the kid with the 200 IQ.
Right.
And we watched these movies on YouTube.
Yes.
Different uploads of different qualities for some of them, but they're a little rough, but watchable, I think.
Yeah, the one I watched was from a VHS release.
Yes, so the USA video.
Mine was a FHE.
Okay.
And then had Viacom stuff at the end.
Okay. Yeah. So I think I might be getting mixed up, but I think all of them had like these totally like old school like Vestron video thing coming up at the beginning or what. It's just like, oh, okay, this is the great experience right here.
Right.
But it's funny that these movies got VHS releases. Yeah. As much as people think like oh well, everything's available. Like no, not only are these movies not streaming officially anywhere, but they never made it to DVD. But yet this stuff came out on VHS.
Yeah.
There's tons of stuff on VHS that hasn't made its way into this digital era.
Right. If these are Viacom, come on, Paramount Plus.
Yeah.
Or
I'd love to see, remastered versions of these.
yeah.
I mean, and I was just telling you off air, rarely do we talk about these shows
Right.
outside of the podcast. But,
Yeah.
every now and then stuff slips out, of course. But I was just telling you, it's hard to find information about these movies, which is interesting. But, I guess there's more about these than, say, Exo Man.
Yeah.
But, to me, this is like this is our sweet spot. This is late 70s, early 80s NBC.
Yeah.
They made 3 movies with this Gary Coleman and Robert Guillaume combo. And I'm presuming they did well enough, even though NBC wasn't doing well because they made 3 of them.
Yeah.
But, it's like, hey, let's have some information about these. Like, why?
Right.
I'm waiting for the definitive Gary Coleman biography, I guess.
Yeah.
I'd read that. I kind of want to know this. He had a fascinating life.
Yeah.
Professionally and personally.
Like the Kid from Left Field had elements that seemed like almost like unintentionally biographical. Like just the idea, and he wasn't really being taken advantage of by his father, but there was that suspicion that he was, and he probably was being taken advantage of by the Padres, but to some extent.
Yeah. It was that was interesting too. He had the San Diego Padres and the apparent cooperation of Major League Baseball. Though back then, who knows? They might have been able to get away with not having the cooperation.
Yeah, all those uniforms were a little off.
Yeah. I don't think they had like real players though. And the kid with the 200 IQ, fictional Brighton College. Now this one, we get into some football, and they cleverly mix in some real footage. I think with some stage footage, so it's interesting. But yeah, I recommend all 3 of these. I did like Kid from Left Field. I really enjoyed that. I'm a sucker for baseball TV movies,
of course,
of the era. But that was a good one.
And it had Ed McMahon in it.
Yes. Yes. Like a surprisingly kindly Ed McMahon too.
Yeah.
It's like you sort of expect him. I sort of expect him to be playing like a George Steinbrenner type.
Right. Yeah.
But he's actually like a pretty good owner. I mean, it's sort of
there's a tiny bit of shadiness.
Yes. Well, the fact that he wants to sell the team.
Yes.
And he's being a little bit shady about it.
Yeah.
But
and an angry tab hunter.
Yes, yeah, that was an interesting performance by Tab Hunter.
Yeah,
his managerial style seems to be shouting at people.
Right. Yeah.
and part of the premise is that Robert Guillaume's ex-player is like a baseball genius.
Yes.
Which it's hard to diagram plays in baseball like you do in football.
Right. Yeah.
But they sort of make it seem later in the movie like it was all Robert Guillaume, but it's like they also establish early on that Gary Coleman is a sandlot baseball genius.
Yeah.
As well. So
yeah, and at least one of the things he does. Like, oh, we did that on my team.
Yeah, and it pays off,
Yeah.
Although I should point out that a lot of the strategies espoused in that movie would be frowned at today with modern analytics.
Yes.
But maybe that's one reason to go back and watch the movie.
What about the move of sending your pitcher to play first base for one at bat and then sending him back to pitch?
Yes, that was a brilliant move by Robert Guillaume's character does that. Now, I actually remember watching something like that happen. I was watching like a Mets game live on Channel 9, and they did that, and they were doing it with, I think, Jesse Orozco and Roger McDowell to get the lefty-righty advantage.
Yeah.
Davey Johnson doing it. And I remember, like, as a kid, I was, like, blown away by that.
Right. Yeah.
And Tim McCarver was explaining it, and everything. And I think he did it, like, more than one batter, as I recall, but I do remember seeing that. But
yeah,
now I realize that Davey Johnson probably got it from Robert Guillaume.
Exactly. In the press conference. I was watching this movie with my kid. You would never think that you could get an idea from that.
But you know what, though? I mean, and I'm just kind of thinking about this, but TV movies, there's this rich tapestry of TV movies for like maybe a 15-year period there. And you would get movies about like baseball and things like that. Nowadays, you barely get TV movies at all.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess, you could count streaming, but it's not the same. But it's just interesting. You would get like biographies of like, Satchel Paige and Roy Campanella would be like TV movies. You'd get like fictional movies like this. You get all kinds of things because they were making so many TV movies every year.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And the streaming ones, they're made as if they were theatrical movies.
Yeah, it's like they're trying to emulate that, but you're not getting the same kind of material that you would back then.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot going on in this movie, so I think we better.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Get on it.
So yes, we did go with Kid with Broken Halo, as the listeners requested. This premiered April 5th, 1982, on a Monday night on NBC. For a little context here, NBC was not in a good place in this 1981 to 1982 season. Fred Silverman had left, I believe, just before the start of the season, but it was his last schedule was the 81 season. So this would be like spring of 82. And NBC's ratings, I believe, actually went down this year.
Yeah.
So, Fred Silverman didn't go out on a high note.
But it sounds like he must have been the one to greenlight this.
Well, I was going to say, if he gave his blessing to these Gary Coleman movies, then we have him to thank for that, right?
Yeah.
So NBC, of course, had The Kid with a Broken Halo at 8. And that's another thing, not just 8 o'clock and then you just put in a movie at 9 o'clock. Back in those days, you'd start you start the night with a movie.
Well,
why not?
I mean, if it's for kids, you got to.
Well, exactly. But it still just looks kind of unusual to me to see, okay, starting the night at 8 p.m. with a movie just because I've been conditioned by years later of, you don't start a movie.
Boy, I probably had to get special dispensation to stay up late enough.
Quite possibly.
I still went to 10.
That's right. And then 10 o'clock was the best of Saturday Night Live. And that's saying something too, isn't it? I mean, this is that NBC's filling out its schedule with, nothing against Saturday Night Live, but they're showing like Saturday Night Live reruns at in prime time here after this original movie. 8 p.m. on CBS. CBS had Private Benjamin. 9 o'clock MASH. I'm going to skip over 8:30 for a minute. 10 o'clock Lou Grant. Okay, so we've talked about MASH, Lou Grant. 8:30 p.m. and 9:30 p.m. had 2 pilots. 8:30 p.m. had the first episode of a show called Report to Murphy with Michael Keaton as an idealistic liberal parole officer. Yeah. Didn't last very long at all. I think it only aired like 5 or 6 weeks. 9:30, Making the Grade with James Naughton as a teacher like at a all-boys school in St. Louis. Also starring, I believe, George Wendt and Allie Mills were in this one. And also Graham Jarvis, I think was probably like the dean or something like sort of maybe his nemesis. But Graham Jarvis, I believe, was in the Love Boat episode we did. Balding guy, the mustache, a lot of times played Weasley types in shows and stuff. That one also didn't last very long either. And it was Gary David Goldberg created that show. I think right after, Family Ties. Made it with Family Ties. And ABC had We Dare You. This was like a half-hour like reality comedy show, which I saw like a really bad review of it by United Press International. UPI did not like the show at all. Said Candid Camera did this thing well. This doesn't do it well. But it was hosted by Terry McGovern and John Bowser Bauman. So, it was like a half-hour show. It lasted. And then at 8:30 p.m., You Only Live Twice with Sean Connery as James Bond. Yeah. One of the many showings of 007 movies on ABC. And that took him through the rest of prime time. So this movie, as you mentioned, was the second in the Kid trilogy, but it was his third TV movie after The Kid from Left Field and also Scout's Honor, which I've never seen. And On the Right Track, a theatrical movie, had come out just before this as well. And one more thing I'll mention is the Gary Coleman show that you mentioned. Yes. That was on NBC September through December of 1982. And it was a Hanna-Barbera show. It was 10:30 a.m. NBC Saturday mornings, and it only lasted like 13 episodes.
Wow, only September.
Yeah.
There's a bigger place in my memory.
Yeah, it may have been reruns, but as far as like its initial run. Right. And then it's bounced around other places. But yeah. And it was on Cartoon Network and Adult Swim, I think, as recently as like the mid 2000s, maybe. So, yeah.
And I did double check. Actually, it is the same character as Andy LeBeau.
Yeah, except they don't have an animated Robert Guillaume in it, unfortunately.
Yeah, he probably put his foot down. Yeah. I'll do another movie. Yeah, you got me. It was a 3-movie deal, but
yeah. Well, I think I've heard that Robert Guillaume is surprisingly popular with the 2 to 11-year-old demographic. And I'll mention that, we're doing Gary Coleman movies. Yeah. Folks, if you're in that 2 to 11-year-old demographic and you feel that we've been underserving you, this is your chance right here, this episode.
That's right. Yeah.
We're delivering.
So besides Gary Coleman and Robert Guillaume, this cast includes June Allison, Mason Adams.
Yes.
Ray Walston, John Plachette, character actor, best known to me after I looked him up. Larry David's Speedo wearing psychiatrist.
Oh, wow. Holy cow. I totally didn't know that.
I didn't either, but that was like the first image at the top of IMDb.
Wow. I saw that he was on Knots Landing as a regular for a while, but I did not recognize him from...
But definitely a familiar face.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Lonnie O'Grady from 8 is Enough. Who, I have to admit, maybe because her hair was dark, I was like, boy, she seems a lot like the person from 8 is Enough.
Oh, yeah. Well, no wonder.
Thelma Hopkins.
Oh, yes.
Kim Fields. A couple kids I named. Kevin Coogan?
Keith, I believe.
Keith Coogan.
Who's not billed as such in this movie for some reason.
Yeah, and was it Tammy
Lauren?
Yeah.
Yes. She has had a prolific
career. She was
well.
in the second chips we did. She was the girl in the 5K.
Ah, yes.
Boulder, whatever.
Yes, that's right. And she was on Angie, like the first season of Angie. I'd seen her in like recently too. But
and Keith Coogan was in both of the big babysitter movies,
Yeah.
apparently.
Yeah. I think he was billed as like Keith Mitchell, and I'm not sure what the story is there, but because I saw the Keith in the credits.
And is he related to Jackie Coogan?
Yes, he's like his grandson, I think.
Okay. Yeah, and George Stanford Brown as Rudy Desautels.
I love that name, Rudy Desautels.
I do. Well, I looked up George Stanford Brown. I mean, he's fine in this, and he has some nice credits. But I'm like, does he rate an ant?
Oh yeah, that's right. He was like, was he
And
was
as
a special guest? Oh,
he
okay.
Was and as.
Oh, okay, good. Yeah. I don't know. He was in The Rookies.
Yeah,
I know, and he's one of those guys. He was in a lot of stuff, but
and apparently he directed a lot of stuff.
Yeah, I don't think we've come across him a lot in our podcast yet.
But and a brief appearance by Corey Feldman.
Yeah, a brief, but he makes an impact.
Yes,
he stands out.
Yeah,
you can see why he worked all the time.
Sure.
But yeah, I did. That was kind of a surprise seeing him.
A couple other people I didn't recognize really, but
yeah, you got the big ones. It's quite a cast. Quite a cast. I think Rance Howard is in this one, which he's also in. I think he's in the Kid from Left Field too.
Really?
Which is interesting, isn't it? That maybe he has some connection with Gary Coleman.
I don't know. Maybe. Yeah.
I think he's the football coach.
Oh. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. I guess I only know him as an old man.
Yeah.
So it begins. I thought it began in heaven, but I guess it's more.
Yeah,
it's an in between place.
I've seen that too. Like that opening sequence is rather long with these credits. Actually, I kind of wondered if they're padding already. Actually,
right? Yeah.
And it especially stands out later when you think about the fact because the structure of the movie, they got a lot to cover. And it's like, boy, those credits seem to go on quite a while with no
other
visuals other than just clouds
and music.
Yeah, but like you, I assumed that it was going to be taking place in heaven.
Yeah, we find out it's called Midway School, and that's a bunch of kids in school with Robert Guillaume teaching them, and they all look sort of like angels, and and it's set in sort of a cloudy setting, and the desks are white and everything, but they're in training to be, I guess, guardian angels, but if they fail, if they go 10 years without getting out of school, then they go down.
Yes.
Down.
Yeah.
And also, if they get 3 strikes against them for behavior, they're out.
Yeah, that seems pretty harsh, doesn't it?
Yes.
I mean, that's a little alarming.
If it were like a sort of like the old school biblical idea that angels are just cosmic beings, not the kind of this more modern thing that they're dead people.
Yeah,
I would be a little more comfortable.
Yeah,
but the fact that it's a room full of dead kids,
right?
And Gary Coleman's character has been up there for 9 years, so I don't know if he's not. I don't know.
Yeah.
How old he's supposed to be, so he's only got 1 more year to go, and then he ends up getting his 3rd strike.
Yeah,
and the punishment is that's a harsh punishment for just not being a good student.
Right. And is that really the binary choice that you need to make? Like, okay, you go through this school, right, that we're going to put you in a job, which you can argue whether kids are really well suited for this anyway.
Right, and also, I mean, you think of an afterlife, and boy, that. If you're a kid and you go to the afterlife and you got to go to school again?
Yeah, that's a good point.
Learn Latin?
I hadn't thought about that. That's right.
That's
really kind of a bummer.
The quote Archie Bunker, that's stinko.
Yeah, and presumably his parents are nowhere to be seen.
Yeah, and we don't find out why he died or anything.
Yeah, it's a surprisingly grim version of the afterlife, isn't it?
Yeah. So immediately we get it. There's tension between Andy and Blake, Robert Guillaume. Like Andy's, for some reason, trying to write Shakespeare backwards just to keep himself entertained because he's bored.
Yeah.
He's been in school for 9 years.
Right.
And then Blake, goes to sit down, and I guess his chair is in the wrong place. I didn't quite understand what was supposed to be happening there.
It was kind of hard to see, I think, partly because the video quality is not great.
Yeah.
But I guess it was like the chair had been rigged, maybe, is what I assume.
So, yeah.
And I think it collapsed on him.
Right.
I think in the promo that I watched, it's a little bit clearer to see.
Okay. Yeah. But anyway, he falls on his keister.
Yes.
And he wants to know who did it, and he reminds them that this whole 3 strikes thing and 3 transgressions, and he's like, if no one speaks up, then everyone gets a transgression. Again,
pretty punitive stuff here.
Right.
And he even says, like, I know who did it.
Yeah.
But it's like he wants everybody else to rat him out.
Right. And Andy rats out himself.
I mean, I guess he accepts that too.
Yes. And all the kids had laughed at him, of course.
Yeah. He's quite a cut up.
Yes. And before that, we should just mention, because it comes back again, I guess, that they were talking about this phrase, man proposes, God disposes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not,
What exactly does that mean?
I'm not sure. I think
I think the
it's
idea is
not like throw away, dispose.
right, but like man's plans are ultimately there's a higher power deciding
Yes,
things.
I think so. Yeah.
And this was, I believe, who did they? Thomas Aquinas.
Alfred Molina. Is it? Yeah, I forget who it was.
Yeah, the great philosopher
Alfred Molina.
Alfred Molina.
Yes. So, Blake's telling him, you were incorrigible in life and you're incorrigible here.
Mm-hmm.
So then he doesn't think he has the stuff to be a guardian angel. So they go to see Archangel Michael, or Mike, as Andy likes to call him.
Not to be confused with you.
Not to be confused with me or Mike Stivic or any other. Played by Ray Walston in typical Ray Walston.
Yeah, this is
Lovable curmudgeon fashion.
Yes, this is like kindly Ray Walston.
Yes.
He's definitely coming on the side of kindly, I think, in this one.
Yes.
He's more indulgent of Andy LeBeau.
He's more my favorite Martian.
Yes,
Ray
he
Walston.
sees something in him, I think, and wants to encourage him, and does.
Yes. And, Blake wants to follow the rules, and Andy says, well, you know why they call them lessons? Because they lesson from day to day. Which is a quote from Alice in Wonderland. He's quite the literary scholar.
He is, yeah. He's done a lot of reading up there.
Yeah.
Or over there.
Right. And he wants to go to Earth and save some souls. And he reminds them he has a lot of street smarts.
Yeah.
Which Blake frowns upon.
Yeah, Blake's not into streets. Blake is a bit of a hater, though.
Yeah, he is.
Right from the get-go. I guess he's had 9 years of being driven crazy for him, so I can't blame him.
Right. This is probably not his first Andy either.
No.
And Michael's like, I'm going to send you to go observe 3 cases, and if you can describe the problem and a treatment, then I'll give you a final chance to earn your wings. But he only observes, and he'll be invisible. So we get case number 4,554, McNulty's.
Yeah, I wonder if he used the same random number generator that we use for the baddies.
Yeah, I don't know, because they're all in the 4,000s.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah, and, I assumed their problem would be that the dad was a hard-drinking, overworked cop. But he is overworked. Someone else is a hard drinker. So Andy goes to their house, and he pokes his head through the dog door and is watching them. And the mom, this is Lonnie O'Grady and John Bilchette, Julie and Jeff, and she's explaining, she's giving them the kids directions for making that night's dinner, which is to do something with the leftover pot roast and make some bread pudding. And these kids they're sick of all that stuff.
Yeah, using every bit of the buffalo.
Yes.
For every meal. Seems to be what's going on here.
We've had bread pudding. Oh, and yeah, this delicious leftover pot roast mixed with hard-boiled eggs is called meat salad. And it turns out both parents are working 2 jobs, and they're saving for college. And Keith Coogan's like, well, you didn't go to college. Why do I have to? He's particularly ungrateful, I feel like.
Yeah.
But the dad's like, yeah, look where I am, working 2 jobs.
Yeah. I mean, they got a point.
Yeah, but there's not just that. They're all about homework and trying to get scholarships. Just no fun.
Yeah, there's no fun in this family.
Yeah. So Andy's able to diagnose that pretty quickly, which is the parents want to give the kids everything they didn't have, but at the expense of time together. He's like, you can plan for the future, but you still got to think about the present.
Yeah. And it was well said the way.
Yes.
That was a good point.
Like
I was a little skeptical here.
I think that was another Alfred Molina quote.
Yeah. But
then his solution is for them to have some fun so that they can see the light.
Okay. I mean, that's a good goal, I guess.
Yeah. Okay. Case 4,762, the Desautells. And he goes down, there's girl Terry, Kim Fields. They're all playing football in the yard, and then Dad, Rudy, comes home, and he's like super serious and annoyed that she's out there playing and not doing her homework. Mm-hmm. So it seems like almost the same thing again, but then he goes in and he pours himself some hard liquor.
Well, no, wait a minute now. I mean, a guy's entitled to a drink after a hard day at work.
I'm just giving the details.
Okay, all right. I mean, I'm saying like right away here, I'm like, he's being a good dad. He's worried about her studies.
Yeah.
He may be a little prickly, but can a guy enjoy a drink on his own without being like, harassed when he comes home? That's the he's got a drinking problem. His problem is that nobody will let him drink in peace.
That's right.
You know, when he wants to relax a little bit. That's how I was reading this at first.
Okay, yeah. But then he seems like he's pretty miserable about something.
Well, he is a little peeved, yes.
Yes.
His family's not giving him any support.
Yeah. Andy's diagnosis is it must have something to do with his career. And he's a pro football player for the Torpedoes.
Yeah, Andy knows all about him, too.
Oh, yes, he does. And he's going to pass on down for a solution because he doesn't have enough information yet.
Yeah, that was interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, kind of a bold gambit.
Yes.
To say that, considering he's fighting for his life here.
Right.
But, yeah.
Yeah.
Ray Walston.
He's very grounded. Kind of.
Yeah. I admire the way Andy's approaching this. He's going at it like, okay, this is what he's not thinking of himself.
Yeah.
I mean, he really is like interested in helping these people.
Yes.
Actually, throughout the whole movie,
Right.
I got to give him credit. Like, I would be like a little bit more desperate
Yeah.
about my situation, but he seems to put that aside pretty well.
Yeah. And case 4574 is Dorothea Powell, played by June Allison. And we say this car drive through the gates of a fancy house, and it's a Volkswagen Rabbit. So I assumed this person probably didn't live at the fancy house. And it turns out that's true. You know, she looks a little sad. She rings the doorbell, and a butler answers and says, Mrs. Powell is not seeing people. And she said, well, my name is Glynis Vargas, and she'll see me. And he's like, oh, that doesn't matter. And then Dorothea appears behind the butler and like, I don't want to see you. You know, I told you not to come back here. And she fires the butler.
Yeah, poor. I mean, my thought.
Poor Peters, I think that was his name.
My thought after this happened was that he's the guy Andy LeBeau should be helping. He
Right.
just lost his job, for no reason at all. Probably has no reference now. And
All right. So they shut the door, and turns out that Glynis is Dorothea's daughter.
Mm-hmm.
And we learned this from Mason Adams, who's talking to her over the wall. He's the neighbor. You know, they both think it's a shame.
It is, yeah.
Yeah.
But, I wanted to hear more of Dorothea's side of the story there.
Yeah.
I mean, what did the daughter do to drive her mother away?
Right.
We don't know it just yet.
And Mason Adams' character is Harry Tenenbaum.
Mm-hmm. Seems like a good guy.
Yes, he does. And diagnosis, Mrs. Powell is bummed out. She can't handle aging. That's kind of a misdiagnosis.
You know what? You're right. I missed that, but I don't think
Yeah.
he quite got this one.
Right.
He got the solution right, but not the...
Well, he doesn't even offer a solution.
I
He
mean,
doesn't
he
even offer
eventually,
to pass. Yeah.
he eventually figures it out. but
Yes. Yeah. But
his initial assessment is off.
whatever, this is enough for him to get his chance to actually go help these people.
Yes, an interesting structure here. So this is sort of a mini test.
Yeah.
And he passed this test in order to take his ultimate test
Yes.
of actually solving these three issues.
Right. But if he fails, he's going down.
Going down.
Yeah. And Blake gets to go and help him.
Yeah.
And off camera, Andy tells him to relax, brother. And when they get down to Earth, Blake walks through a tree, which Andy didn't know he could do, and they find out they can be invisible, they can be intangible, and unless they choose not to be, and they have some psychic abilities.
Yeah, something that it's funny because the walking through a tree thing really feels like showing off.
Yeah.
In that moment. And they establish that they can do that, and then they don't do that as much, and then
No.
the thought transference or whatever they call it, that winds up being like the big power.
Yeah. They did do some teleporting.
Yeah.
Or at least appearing out of nowhere. So, that's Andy knows. Plan is simple: study, diagnose, and cure.
Mm-hmm.
So now we go back to Rudy and Terry. Rudy's still bummed out. He doesn't want dinner, and things are just not going well at the spring training or fall training, whatever training. It's training camp,
Yeah.
and he thinks he's going to get cut.
Yeah, and he's like a great player too.
Yeah,
I mean, it's established that he's got like some kind of record for touchdowns in a Super Bowl, and
yeah,
he's could be on his way to the Hall of Fame, but
right.
he's hit the skids.
Yeah,
But it's not like he's some like bum.
yeah.
He's just a great player that's lost a step or two apparently.
Yeah, yeah. And because of that, he started drinking and
Well,
being a grump.
I'll admit it's not the best training regimen.
Yes.
But, back in those days, in the 70s, it was more common to drink heavily after games and before games, during games even sometimes.
Right, yeah. But, later Terry says to him, you used to never drink. And I'm looking at, he's got this wet bar full of...
You must have put that together pretty quickly.
Yeah. He came home one day with that, and
Yeah.
his wife's, oh, this is not good.
Well, just for when we have people over.
Yeah.
Got to make sure it's well stocked too. All right.
Yeah. At Dorothea's, we learn a little bit about Blake, which is he was around when she was a young actress, and like millions of other men, he fell in love with her.
Man, yeah. Just the way he's looking at her, boy.
Yeah.
What a dreamy expression he's got in his face. Ooh.
So June Allison, what is she best known for?
Well, she's best known for being Dick Powell's wife.
Oh, yes.
In my opinion.
Right. Oh, yeah.
Not to do her a disservice, but married to Dick Powell for a while, and she was in a lot of Depends commercials for years. That's probably what she's most famous for now, actually.
Yeah.
She was in a lot of musicals. I think she was in some movies with Van Johnson. So we're talking, like late 40s, 50s.
Little Women, right?
Yeah. Well, who wasn't in Little Women?
Yeah.
In some form of Little Women.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, she was like, she's cast against type in this movie because she had like a very sunny,
yes.
I think, girl next door kind of image, and like very cheerful or whatever. So this is definitely against the type she was playing in those musicals and other movies.
So she is in this room kind of talking to a painting of her husband, her dead husband. And the new butler, I believe his name is Fenton, comes in and she gets really angry that he's never allowed in this room. And she reminds him no calls, no visitors, etc. And Andy's like, well, I'm going to, get her back together with her daughter. So at least he's adjusted his diagnosis a little bit.
Yeah.
He still doesn't have all the pieces.
Right. I mean, it's almost like at first he thought the daughter was the one he was helping.
Yeah.
Because that's kind of what he's doing too, But
right. And then the McNulty's, we learn that Julie has a new job proofreading the telephone book.
Yeah.
Which, that's got to be done.
Yeah.
Back when they had them.
Yeah.
Somebody had to do them.
That's right. And you can work from home.
Yeah.
You work at your own pace, apparently. So not a bad job.
That's right.
Probably, induces eye strain, but
yeah. Hey.
There's worse things to do.
And find out Jeff works in a restaurant, at least his night job. And Andy thinks the cure is for them to get a free meal from that restaurant.
Yeah.
Which is, like, I thought he meant for the family, but he doesn't.
Right.
So then he and Blake are there eating, which I guess is one of their powers, too. They can eat if they want. And Blake says it's satisfactory.
Yeah. He doesn't seem to do it for pleasure.
Yes. He reminded me a little bit of Captain Holt from Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
Oh, yeah.
His way of talking.
I could see. Yeah, that's good. Yeah.
And he makes a point of explaining that Andy's not eating spaghetti, but fettuccine. It's a totally different kind of pasta.
Yes.
And then Andy sends Blake away, and he can't pay, and he spins this yarn about Blake being some sort of deadbeat who's probably off on a drunk.
Yeah. Does this often.
Yeah. And then the very animated Italian owner of the Italian restaurant comes by and...
Yeah, and gets very upset about this.
Yes, he does, and he blames it on Jeff and fires him.
Yeah, I think that was way out of line.
Man, people in this world, they got hair trigger fingers when it comes to
they really
firing
do.
people.
They really do. I mean, yeah, he's lost a meal, but it escalates super quickly.
Yeah.
And yeah, poor Jeff is the brunt of the ire.
And, while Jeff is getting his stuff and getting ready to leave, Andy comes and talks to him and explains the situation a little more. And basically, he's like, I don't have a home, and that this con man adopted me and all of this. And Jeff's like, well, you can come stay with us.
Yeah, he's like, I think Jeff actually says something like, I guess I'll have to take you home with me.
Yeah.
It's just like, oh, okay. Yeah, well, that's clearly the only
yes.
rational solution here.
Yeah. Listen, Jeff, there's a lady in social services down in San Diego.
Right.
She might help.
And she doesn't give up. She stays in a case for months at a time.
That's right. And when they get home, Andy almost kind of tips his hand a little bit. He's like, oh, your wife's working 2 jobs and this.
Yeah.
How do you know that? And like, oh, just seeing what's going on around me or something.
Yeah. It's very perceptive.
And Blake shows up invisibly to talk to him. He thinks he's made a big mess, but no, Andy has a plan, which includes the kids bringing breakfast in bed to the parents the next day. And this is after Jeff had told Julie that he got fired. And of course, Andy showed them how to do this and how to make French toast.
Yeah.
The weirdest thing about this was they say French toast, and then Julie's like, French toast? It's like he's sitting on her lap.
Yeah.
And no doubt she knows that French toast is made from old bread.
Yes. That's a good point.
And apparently it's really good French toast.
Yeah. I mean, Jeff kind of like dives right in and is enjoying it. One thing
he's definitely got a better attitude.
He does. It's interesting, like the story, it doesn't really. We're definitely taking Andy LeBeau's side because you're not supposed to look at this as like this existential crisis for this family that needs the money.
Yeah.
It's that they're just obsessive, especially like in her case. Like she's actually, you know, she's kind of obsessive, but it's like they don't need the money. The implication is always that they don't need the money to survive.
Right.
They just need the money to get the kids into college and
Yes.
to reach this other level, which hopefully makes things a little bit easier.
Yeah.
But you know, it's just it is a little bit weird at the time. I mean,
Right.
because
but they do have a house.
Jeff getting fired should be, you know, it is a little bit alarming to
Yeah.
me.
Yes.
It's not something I would just shrug off.
No. But, you know, maybe he needs a day or two.
Yeah, yeah.
And we see Rudy at practice, and he's really not getting to do anything. And Terry and the mom are watching, and Andy sits down next to him and starts talking. He remembers some game from 13 years ago. Again, he's almost slipping up, and he's, but he's just so enthusiastic, and you know, and so darn cute.
Yes, he is.
Terry takes him down to meet Rudy, and he really bigs him up. Andy trying to make Rudy feel confident, but it doesn't really work. But Rudy gives him a football.
It's a pretty classy move.
Yeah,
I believe this is another example of, you know, poor Rudy's dealing with his family being unsupportive. I mean, he's fighting for his professional life, and she just comes down the field at his work and just introduces him to some snot-nosed kid.
Yeah.
Even worse, some obsessive snot-nosed kid. He was reciting all his stats and everything. I thought Rudy handled this with a lot of class and grace.
Yeah.
I was very impressed by that.
I think so.
And gave him a nice football.
You know, I'm sure the alcohol took the edge off.
I hope you mean the rubbing alcohol that
Yes,
they put on his
That's right.
knee scrape from the day before.
Yeah, nothing added to his Gatorade. At Dorothea's, Mason Adams is up picking some. I wrote lemons, but they might be pears. I'm not.
Oh, yeah, I'm not
Some
sure.
sort of oblong fruit.
Yeah.
So he can look over a wall there, and Andy and Blake just show up in the yard. And when we first saw the house, it had a gate,
Yeah.
and yet people are always walking up.
You're right. Yeah.
And they talk a little bit about her, and he's like, well, you know, she'll see me. Old ladies like cute kids. But then he gets the idea. He's like, Harry's always being nice to her, and it's not helping, and the daughter is always being nice. And he's like, everybody's being too nice. So he throws the football through the window.
Yeah.
You know, she comes out, and he offers to pay for the window, and he's like, I find you a very fresh little kid.
Yeah.
But she doesn't give the ball back. And Harry says, I'll see what we can do. And but it's all part of Andy's plan.
Yeah, I don't think it's going too well so far. I'm a little skeptical myself.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I thought he really thought he would be able to get in the house.
Yeah.
But, yeah, nothing doing so far.
No. And back at the McNulty's, it's Saturday. I guess it's the same day. And Jeff decides, you know, we're not going to work hard today. It's Saturday. We're going to have some fun. And he came back from a job interview he didn't get. But for some reason, he just got the thought in his head to buy steak, fries, and chocolate cream pie. He just had this thought to celebrate what you have. And he bought Monopoly.
Yeah.
The perfect game for a family with money worries.
Right. Spend a relaxing evening obsessing over money.
Right. And Andy just walks in. Of course, he told them he was out doing stuff all day.
Yeah.
He just marches in, right?
He's got a very
in time for food. He wants
loose
his
relationship
steak.
with his
Yeah,
food.
he wants his steak bloody.
Yeah.
And then he like speed reads through a few pages of the phone book for
Yeah,
Julie.
he offers to finish her job. I don't know if he's just going to finish her night's worth of pages,
Right.
like the M's or something, or if he's just going to finish the whole thing.
Right. In my life, I've had a few jobs proofreading weird things like that, but it didn't seem like she had anything to match it. Like, I'm not sure how the phone book proofreading works.
Yeah, like, and like he's like pointing out names that are It's not like he's finding typos.
No. Well, how does he know?
Yeah,
Maybe they did spell it with a Z.
Yeah, she doesn't challenge him on that. I think she's just relieved to be away from that book for a little bit, actually.
Yeah.
Despite her protestations, I don't
Yes.
think she's enjoying that proofreading job.
No, I don't think anyone has ever said. Trying to think of I could listen to them read the phone book joke.
Yeah.
I could spend all night reading the phone book. And Harry's, or whatever, back at that story, the next day, he's gardening, Dorothy's gardening, and Andy's somewhere nearby and does some psychic transference to Harry, who climbs the ladder and is like leaning over the wall and starts talking to her. And she's not particularly nice to him for invading her privacy. You know, he's always respected it in the past. But, you know, he just thinks it'd be nice to get that ball back. It's from Rudy Desautels.
Yeah.
And, you know, he promised, he's like, if I fall, I'll fall on my side. But then Andy nudges him. He falls over the wall, and she runs over, concerned, and he looks up, and he's just starry-eyed.
Yeah, he's...
He thinks he's died. I've died and gone to heaven.
Yeah. Oh.
To be in the arms of Dorothea Powell.
I'm just thankful they didn't break a hip or something. I mean, I presume Andy had... Do you think Andy had some kind of control over his landing?
I hope so.
Because, I mean, geez, you're an old man. You're making him fall from a pretty strong height.
Yeah.
It's
as we see later, these angels don't have a lot of concern for small injuries.
No, it's certainly not in these peripheral characters.
Yes.
If you're not directly being assisted here,
right,
you're not part of the protected ones.
And I just realized they gave her the last name Powell.
Ah, yes. Nice little nod.
Sure.
To film history.
At Rudy's house, he gets a phone call from some lady in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, this is
weird.
Yeah, so his wife picks up the phone. Or no, his wife informs him.
Yes.
That she had gotten this call.
Yeah.
And he's like, "Well, I'm going to settle this."
Yeah.
And I don't know what really went on here.
No.
Because she gets mad and she's like, "It's not even about her, you know."
Yeah.
It's isn't it though?
Yeah.
Is it because there's more of these or what? But the way he plays it like he's genuinely upset with her, and there's been that nothing actually went on between them.
Yeah.
That's just like some crank, you know.
Right, and then he never.
But
cheated. Yeah.
I don't know about that. You know.
Maybe it's another Andy.
Yeah.
Hello, this is Kiki from Pittsburgh. I don't know. But then afterwards they have an argument, or they talk about the other stuff, right? That just the way he's behaving and everything. If he doesn't get his act together, she's going to leave him. And then she leaves, and Terry comes in, and they have a nice moment together, and he apologizes for the way he's been acting towards her. Even might have another job lined up refereeing wrestling.
Yeah. Well, my eyebrows went up. I'm like, hey, that sounds pretty cool.
Yeah.
I mean, it's played like it's supposed to be a come down.
Right. Yeah.
It's like, hey, you could probably make pretty good money for that. It's steady work, and
yeah.
What's wrong with that?
Right.
It's a living.
Right, and 1982, wrestling's on the cusp of.
Yeah, he'd probably be brought in as a special attraction, make good money.
Yeah.
Probably spend years doing that.
And Terry keeps rattling off all this advice and wisdom from Andy. Rudy's thinks she might have a little crush on him, which seems true.
Yeah.
And he's just, one of some of his sage wisdom, just try harder.
Yeah, just try harder. So he's
and
Rudy
actually does not react to that the way a lot of people would.
Yeah.
He's like, negatively.
Yeah, you kind of get the impression that, well, maybe he has been dogging it through training camp, and
right
now he just needs to try harder.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hope that wasn't one of Alfred Molina's sayings, because I'm not as impressed with that one.
No. Jeff is waiting for a job interview at a restaurant, and the guy before him wants $100 a week plus tips, and then the restaurant owner asks him if he has his own tuxedo. Waiters have to have their own tuxedo?
Yeah.
What? A real tuxedo?
It's like in this movie, the expectation is like waiters there's like this roving class of waiters that like a pool of waiters that everybody's drawing from that often circulate between jobs. And maybe that's the way it was.
Maybe at fancy restaurants you do. I don't know. I mean, I worked somewhere where wasn't a waiter, but had to wear like a tuxedo shirt and a fake bow tie. Mm-hmm. The company provided that.
Yeah, you would think. I guess maybe it's almost like they're treated more like butlers.
Yes.
Like you would go around and like you'd carry over your uniform because that would be tied to you as opposed to the restaurant.
Yeah. Well, maybe maybe the butlers and the waiters all went to the same.
Yeah.
Placement agency.
Maybe.
That would have been good. Jeff and Andy should have done that.
Yeah.
Get this new butler fired, and then you can become the butler. And then you can help,
Yeah.
Be my inside man.
Maybe they would have run into Franklin Cover at that agency, too.
Yeah. And Andy encourages him to ask for $300 a week in tips, which, he doesn't get the job.
Yeah. So what was Andy's goal here? Was Andy's goal here to ensure that he didn't get the job, or
Yes.
just to give him a better sense of his value in the market?
First,
First, I thought it was the latter, but now
no, I think it was just so he didn't get the job.
just to delay him from getting the job.
Yeah. And he's happy about it.
Yeah.
And meanwhile, at home, they're going to have turkey, and those ungrateful kids are disappointed about that. But he comes in, and he's in great mood, and again, he's like, yeah, let's take a day off. You go, Julia, you go read a mystery book. You haven't done that in years. And,
Yeah. I love the way he says that, too.
Kids go outside and play. Outside?
Yeah, you're getting pale.
Yeah. And he's going to go work on that contraption in the basement. And from that point on, all I wanted to do was see him working on the contraption in the basement.
Yeah. Well, you
What
get
could
a
it
little
be?
bit. You
Yes.
get a little bit of that. Yeah.
And Rudy's running at the field, or around the track, and Andy and Terry are sitting on a bench, and she kisses his cheek, and he gets all flustered. And Invisible Blake is kind of worrying him. We're gonna have to go at some point, and she's asking all sorts of questions about him, and he just changes the subject back to her dad.
Mm-hmm. I'm surprised she doesn't suspect that he's using her to get to his dad.
Yeah.
Or to get to her dad, but doesn't seem to come up to like she's
Right,
hanging
yeah.
out with her only because of her famous dad.
Right? Yeah.
Because and especially the way that he keeps deflecting talk and just wants to change the subject
Right.
to talk about Rudy.
This is a more innocent time.
I guess so.
Fans can just be,
Yeah, that's true.
At Dorothea's, Andy and Blake are walking up to the front door, and Harry walks up to him, and he's wearing a blue blazer.
Yeah, he's dressed up.
He's got the football, and he's been invited to dinner.
Ooh.
And isn't that where Blake says something like, well, he's not her type, but I am. Or something.
Yeah, he does.
But he does have some reserved praise for Andy. But then Harry and Dorothea are having a drink, and they have a nice conversation. And she feels betrayed by everyone in her life. Her husband for dying, her daughter for marrying this Vargas guy.
Yeah.
But now she's feeling the urge to have human contact again. And then she goes off to check on dinner. Salmon. I love salmon. I don't know. Feeling more Jimmy Stewart than Mason Adams today. But
it's a fine line sometimes.
Harry goes wandering around and goes into the forbidden room.
How rude. I mean, really. I mean, we were watching this, Lori and I, and thinking, she was actually saying, don't open that door, don't open that door. But he's like drawn to it.
Yes.
And he just goes and opens it. I mean, now Lori said right away, as soon as he opened the door, she's like, he should just say he was trying to find the bathroom.
Yeah.
He doesn't think to do that, though.
No, I was admiring your house.
Yeah, he just gets indignant.
Yeah.
That she's mad at him for snooping around.
Right.
Ugh, that's very rude. Very intrusive for a reclusive woman like this to go in and start opening closed doors right away.
I have a theory I just came up with.
Oh, yeah?
There's another movie going on starring Jason Bateman as a devil in training. And he's encouraging him to go into that room. He's working at opposing forces.
Oh, boy, that's perfect. I like that.
And you know who's teaching him.
Sammy Davis Jr.?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, gosh. I think you're onto something there, yes. That
so.
would explain a lot of what happens in this movie, wouldn't it?
Right. And this is the point of the movie where everything starts going wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Andy's plans don't seem to be working. Like Rudy's at practice, and he wants a chance, and the coach is like, owes him a lot. He's like, I won't cut you, but I'm not going to play you. And Rudy's like, well, I'm not going to sit on the bench. So he gives him a chance, and he gets clobbered and knocked out.
Yeah, it's funny because at first he catches a pretty insignificant little 5-yard out pattern.
Yes.
It's like, ooh, he caught the ball,
Right.
and then he does it again. But yeah.
And then he misses one.
And yeah. Well, it's funny. Yeah. That you were told that, it was over his head, but I was like, no, it went right through his hands. He probably should have caught that.
Yeah. It's like a funny exchange with the assistant coach.
Yeah. The assistant coach is defending him.
Yeah, but then the other coach is, isn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah, and he totally gets clobbered.
He gets clobbered. And here's a view of what football was like back then.
Yeah.
That was a legal play.
Right.
Now it's like a defenseless receiver, and but yeah, he gets totally wiped out, and yet the coach seems to blame him.
Yeah.
This is some failing on him for getting clobbered. I didn't buy that.
They never know when to quit.
That was they never know when to quit.
Or hang up the shoes.
Yeah. It's like, oh, jeez.
Then we see Jeff working on his contraption, which, as far as I can tell, is a remote control sewing machine.
Well, just think about what what a life changer this would be.
Yeah.
I mean, to be able to sew from across the room. I mean, just think of all that would it free you to do other things.
I know.
You could have children sew again, like they did back in the Industrial Revolution.
Yeah, because it's just playing with a toy, really.
Right.
Yeah.
This remote control looks bigger than the sewing machine itself. Yes. I didn't quite grasp what was so brilliant about this.
No, I mean, maybe in an industrial setting it could be.
Well, I mean,
and because then you're not leaning over and the eye strain and all that. Maybe. I don't.
There could well be some principle in here that would be applicable to things beyond just sewing machines. I mean, maybe I'm focusing on the sewing machine, but maybe the remote is what is really the brilliant thing.
Yes.
You know, it's the remote which would give him dominion over any machine.
Right. Yeah.
Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah.
But if that's the case, well, then this is really something here.
Yeah. But it kind of doesn't work. I mean, it works, but then it doesn't. The sewing machine starts ripping up which is a problem with the sewing machine, really. But then the remote won't stop it. He gets fed up and throws the remote on the basement floor and storms upstairs, and then just the whole house explodes into arguments.
Yeah, Sonny Jeff is gone. They start saying cruel things to each other.
Yeah.
It really looks like a mess, and he's never going to touch that contraption again. Really kind of the self-pitying attitude that we've seen Rudy exhibit in this movie, too.
Blake and Andy have a heart-to-heart, but Blake he just tells Andy to give up.
Yeah.
You've tried and you failed.
What a pal.
Yeah.
I mean, geez.
He's not happy about it, so that's progress in his character, at least.
And he's like, well, it's a shame, but I mean, it's like, come on. Andy's got kind of a lot more at stake here than you do.
Yeah, but, and Andy's, he says, as you said earlier, he's more worried about the people than his own trouble.
That's noticeable, yeah.
Yes, and then that gives him an answer. A brainwave, as people used to say.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe still say. Helping others will help them. And it starts with calling Harry Tannenbaum. So then, Harry's visiting Rudy. And he explains that he's got a friend who has a clothing company that needs a spokesperson for ads, but also a youth sports program. A national youth sports program.
Yeah, I could see that. Kind of reminded me of like those old, you'd see ads for like Wrangler jeans or something in comic books, or Spalding basketballs and stuff. And you could very easily see some campaign built around, Rudy.
But he's got to give up the sauce.
And he says
while having a drink with Rudy.
Yeah, and he says it's done, So Rudy's got no problem with that.
And he's got to play one more season, and he doesn't have to play every game or anything, but he has to at least do one spectacular thing.
Yeah. Well, now we got a problem.
Yeah. Some of that's out of Rudy's control.
Yeah, Rudy can't. He wants to play.
Yeah.
He's trying harder now.
Right.
I really don't see what difference one more season. Actually, it might be better for him to go out now before just going out there as a shell of himself and getting clobbered, and dropping passes.
Yeah, but apparently this publicity.
Yeah. Huh?
So at the McNulty's, the kids come home. Turkey hash is on the menu.
Ugh.
Never good when hash is on the menu.
No.
And they get a phone call, and Andy is on the phone, and he wants them to do something. I don't really know what he asks them to do, but then the doorbell rings, and it's Rudy and Terry. And they say Andy sent them, and do you want to throw the football around? And then Rudy mentions that he saw a game going on. And the kids are like, it won't let us in. And he's like, I can talk him into it.
Yeah.
Which he does. And
Sandlot football.
Yes.
Yeah, there's something you don't see these days.
No.
And in the great tradition of kids going out and playing like contact sports in polo shirts, just always get a kick out of that.
Yes. And he gets clobbered again while they're playing.
Yeah.
I don't know, 6 kids hit him. Dump him over.
And that's probably a good strategy. Take out him right away and then, and go to everybody else. But man, if he can't best these kids, I think maybe it is time for him to hang it up.
Right.
I mean, granted, they had numbers on him, but still.
Yeah.
He's a professional athlete.
But he is having a good time, and the kids are. And
they are having fun.
He gave them 2 tickets to the game, this is the errand Andy wanted. So they go to Dorothy's and give her the tickets, and she refuses them, and they're like, well, they're yours. And so then she tears them up in their face.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I kind of enjoyed that. It's like, man, that's strong demonstration of her feelings.
Yeah. And then Rudy is out driving. I assume he's on his way to the game. I think he is. And Andy sends him a psychic message, and he drives to Dorothea's, and gives her 2 more tickets.
Yeah, I thought he was going to have Rudy drive into a tree or something. It was very disturbing the way it was done. And
she's also not interested, and the butler is very excited about them.
Yeah.
And she tears them up again and hands them to the butler and storms off. And then he's trying to stick them back together with spit.
I like that. That's I think that's a good example of the Leslie Martinson touch.
Yeah.
Like, just a little moment like that, showing the butler the hapless butler trying to put those back together. That's a nice little moment there.
And the McNultys get some tickets anonymously, and they have a little hesitation about going, and then they all get excited and they go to the game.
Yeah, doesn't Melania O'Grady remembers like some game?
Yeah.
Where she or was it there? Or was it later? She recalls some game, and
Right.
Jeff's like,
Oh,
"You
good.
remembered."
Yeah,
Like some
she's
game.
like, I remember a lot of stuff.
Yeah. I remember. Oh.
Yeah. At Dorothea's, Andy sends a psychic message to Harry, who, just pushes in past the butler and insists that Dorothea goes out with him to the game
Yeah.
because he's got 2 tickets.
Yeah.
She's like, well, someone wants me to go to this game. It seems like a sign.
Yeah, yeah. This is like kind of the closest we get to characters acknowledging this higher power that we're being told about.
Yeah. I think Harry does a few times. He's
Yeah.
sort of like, I don't know why, but I just,
Yeah. She's like, yeah, I think I'm meant to go to this game.
Yeah. And so the game, and some of that footage, it looked to me like the Cleveland Browns were playing the Cleveland Browns.
Yes, I think so. You're right about that. And that's got to be one of the least attractive matchups in NFL history. The Cleveland Browns playing the Cleveland Browns. Even, especially if you take them out of Cleveland and put them in Los Angeles.
Right.
That really takes some of the luster out of it, doesn't it?
Put them in the Rose Bowl.
Yeah. And I believe, I'm not 100% sure on this, but I believe that's Brian Sipe. A lot of the footage is real footage of like the actual Browns quarterback at the time, who was a pretty good player.
Okay.
Went to the USFL, made like a ton of money, and then that was pretty much the end of his career. He
So
didn't do great on the USFL.
Who is it as the other team, the Bengals?
I thought the same thing. I thought it was Cleveland Browns playing against the Cleveland,
Right.
But maybe it is like some version. I don't know who they're playing it,
Yeah.
frankly. But because clearly they have some real game footage in there.
Yeah.
But it's not like they had an annual brown and orange game. I don't know.
I mean, I remember the Bengals before they got the striped helmets.
Yeah. I mean,
having the word Bengals on their helmet.
right. I mean, it's supposed to be the torpedoes against I don't know, but
Their name was in there. I forget.
yeah, there's no names. There's numbers on the jerseys, but there's no distinguishing things, which is why I was very anxious to see after those very long beginning credits. I wanted to see the end credits because I wanted to see the producers gratefully, acknowledge the participation of the National Football League and the Cleveland Browns, blah blah blah. But we didn't get that.
No.
It's like, so I'm trying to. I wanted to find more information about this footage, but because not all of it is game footage too, though. It's like these inserts.
Right, but it looks like NFL films or something.
Yeah. So yeah, I don't know who's playing, but it's definitely the Cleveland Browns, and I'm not sure who the other opponent is. It had, if it's another real team, I guess it's got to be the Cincinnati Bengals, but
Yeah.
I don't know.
This was a scrimmage.
Yeah.
But everyone's having a good time at the game, and Glynis and the grandkids are there. I assume they got some magic tickets too.
Yeah.
And her that Vargas guy.
Yeah, that no account.
Yeah,
Frank
boy,
Vargas.
he looks like trouble.
Yeah.
Being a regular dad.
Yeah.
And so one of the kids is Corey Feldman. I believe IMDb said his character's name is Rafe.
Rafe.
Yeah.
Wow, that's interesting. Rafe.
And they can see, Grandma nearby, but they've never met her, which is sad. This is sad.
I mean, probably naming the kid Rafe is probably what drove a further wedge in between all of them.
Yes.
Dorothea didn't approve of that.
It's probably like Rafe Vargas. It was like the name of a villain in some movie she was in.
Right.
How could you?
Cesar Romero is Rafe Vargas.
And during halftime, Andy stops Rudy in the tunnel, and Rudy's comes the closest to figuring out that something is going on.
Yeah.
Because he has all this old knowledge, and weird stuff keeps happening.
I'll admit, Rudy seems to be a lot more clear-headed since he gave up the booze.
Yes.
Yesterday or whenever
Right,
it was.
yeah.
But he's already, he's much sharper. But yeah, he's onto something.
The second half, things are not going so well, because Rudy hasn't played yet, and that's a very important part of this.
Yeah, apparently the coach wasn't kidding when he said he wasn't going to play
Yeah.
Rudy. He's buried all the way down on the bench.
Right.
And, football was a different game. You didn't necessarily use as many wide receivers as you do now. But as we see, he was desperately avoiding putting Rudy in the game at all. I mean,
And Andy's sitting there in the stands with both Blake and Michael. resplendent in a white suit.
Yeah.
And Michael kind of, he sends, not just encourages, he sends a psychic message to Andy, who then sends a psychic message to a player on the field who runs the wrong direction.
Yeah.
And gets tackled by his entire team and injured.
It becomes an instant punchline.
Yes.
And notorious in football history.
Right.
For making the biggest boneheaded play of all time.
Yeah. And Michael Andy, well, he's not seriously hurt.
Oh, that's reassuring.
There's some very dubious ethics here.
Yeah. Only his pride.
I guess he's just shaken up. And then, no, the next guy sprains his ankle.
Yeah, they put in the other guy, and I thought maybe he tore an ACL or something.
Yeah.
We're told through Michael
that
it was just an ankle sprain. I'm
right.
Dubious of that. And the coach had said, I think early on, he rattled off the two guys' names. He said, he's not going in unless something happens to some.
Yeah.
So I was kind of thinking like, oh, maybe, Gary Coleman's going to injure the other two. I was thinking that as a joke, but no, that's pretty much what happens.
Yeah. And when this is going on, they keep cutting the shots of the clouds. I guess, Michael's making sure all this is okay with
the big guy.
The big guy.
Gordon Jump.
Gordon. Rudy goes in, but the coach tells the quarterback to, keep it away from him. So he's wide open. Nope, doesn't get it.
I mean, this is really football malpractice here.
Yeah.
It's like the coach has some bizarre vendetta against him. It's gone way beyond football reasons at this point.
He can't hack it.
Yeah.
And
I mean, you're playing, 10 on 11.
Yeah. And then it's fourth down with no time left, basically.
It's like 19 to
And the
13.
quarterback actually tells Rudy in the huddle, I'm not allowed to throw it to you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not going to do it.
At least he's open about it.
And it's a really long pass. But then, Andy intervenes again.
Yes.
And Rudy catches it, and they win the game by 3 points, I guess.
I think it was actually 19-14. So the touchdown puts them up ahead 20 to 19, and they don't bother to kick the extra point, I think.
Yeah. Okay.
So if any of you had money on the game, that's a bad beat though. If you had really either, I don't know what the spread was, but in real life they would probably kick that extra point because it might be significant for the point spread, but I don't know.
Then everything works out.
Yeah.
Dorothea meets her grandkids.
Yeah.
Rudy's gonna get that big job,
mm-hmm.
and Andy says some nice goodbyes to people. Has to have a little extra run with Terry, and and the McNultys decide no more. We'll make things work, but we're gonna have a good time again.
Yeah, they're gonna enjoy life in the present. I like that.
But still gonna maybe try to get those scholarships.
Yeah, let's not get carried away.
Yeah, let's not get carried away. And then Andy not only gets his wings, but so does Blake. I guess Blake had them, but they're gonna be a team now.
Yeah,
because they're such great teamwork.
They work so well.
Yes,
sort of.
I
mean, Blake really didn't do much.
No, not really.
Didn't I?
He mostly...
He smirked a few times.
Yeah, told him to quit.
He mooned over June Allison.
Yeah.
Got a nice meal, a satisfactory meal. And then,
yes, a satisfactory meal.
Yeah, Well, I'm not sure. Now, is this a reward for him? I mean...
It doesn't seem...
I mean, he doesn't have to teach anymore. But he seemed to enjoy teaching, except for the troublemakers.
Yeah.
So I don't know. But, well, it does lead to a nice moment, though.
Yes.
Because, when he finds out that he's going to be paired up with Andy. Because he says they're talking, and he actually says, and this is the first time they've said the word in the movie. He says, but paired with you, it's going to be hell. And then he's like, what? And then he doesn't say what you're talking about, but he looks at him, you want him to say it. He doesn't say it. And then he just kind of winks at him and smiles at him, and you realize...
There was a point earlier in the movie, though, where Robert Guillaume said, what are you talking about? I think it was that one. It might have been the baseball one.
Oh.
One of them, he said that.
Yeah.
That's probably the kid from left field.
I think you're right. Yeah, I think you're right. Now that I mentioned it, I think at the time it came up, and a knowing wink.
Yes.
That one must have been directed by Leslie Martinson, too. That sounds like the kind of thing he would put in there.
I don't think that was. I think it was the 200 IQ and...
Oh, okay.
One of the other. I don't know if it was the fire one. Not the fire one. The girl that Terry Lauren, I think, is in that one. Is in the Gary Coleman arson.
Oh, Playing with Fire.
Playing with Fire.
Gary Coleman is Playing with Fire. I want to see that movie so badly. That one's not on YouTube that I can find.
But I think Leslie Martinson directed the Magical World of DC.
Oh yes, DC Con. I remember. I've never seen that one, but I think it was in the youth magazines in the day.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking, oh, that sounds cool,
Yeah.
but never actually seeing it. Like the fantastic world of DC Collins.
Yeah. And I think Leslie Martin maybe directed some different strokes, too. Or maybe the writer wrote some. There's definitely a lot of crossover there.
Yeah.
It was Gary Coleman's go-to guy.
Yeah.
Like, I like this guy.
You know, Gary Coleman and writers, you know.
Yeah.
He could be prickly with them, but
yes.
if you're on his team, you're on his team for life.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the kid with the broken halo.
Very enjoyable movie.
It is.
I think it's probably my least favorite of the three, but that's no slight on the movie because I enjoyed all three of them, as I said.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's I like that it has all these characters.
Yeah.
It is a little maybe overcomplicated at times.
Now, oddly, considering like the supernatural element of it, this is actually the most conventional of the three, I think. Because the kid from left field, it was like the baseball stuff, and I was curious about that and things, and like some of the time compression and stuff. And the kid with the 200 IQ just seemed totally bizarre and off the wall to me, like just for reasons that I've explained. So to me, this was actually the most conventional of them, but it was charming and it did what it meant to do.
Yeah, yes, and and it is in a long line of angel stories, movies.
Now,
not quite. It's a Wonderful Life.
No, I would say not.
But I think is maybe more enjoyable than an hour and a half if I would have or Touched by an Angel would be.
Well, now you might say to yourself though, why didn't he just like plant thoughts more directly in people's heads?
Yes.
Like there's multiple times he could have done that. It's almost like he ran out of time and just decided at the end, okay, I'm just gonna screw with other people too, and like the football players,
Right. Yeah.
But
I believe he was still learning that power too.
True. I mean, I guess it's weird because it's almost like you'd presume that there's some element of free will that the characters have to come to want these things, and the idea is just to bring them about with circumstances.
Right.
To let them come to this on their own, but they don't really go there.
Well, as we know, man proposes, God disposes.
God disposes. Yes. Yeah. That's deep. I think this movie epitomized that. Thomas Aquinas or Alfred Molina.
Yeah.
You were onto something, my man.
Yeah. Wait, let me see if I can. Maybe this isn't even a real quote.
Oh, you think maybe they?
I don't know. I mean, the rest of the quotes seemed real, but man proposes, God disposes. Ugh. AI overview. I'm not going to read the AI overview. No. I don't care.
No.
I don't care if it's right.
Yeah.
Well, it's a painting. The phrase "man proposes, but God disposes" is a translation of the Latin phrase "Homo proponent, sed Deus disponent."
Deus disponent.
Pardon me for my Latin.
Was that an NBC miniseries? Was that Fred Silverman's answer to I, Claudius?
Yes.
Deus disponent.
Right. Thomas à Kempis.
Okay.
I see why you. Thomas Aquinas.
Okay.
Thomas à Kempis, yeah. A German cleric.
Thomas à Kempis. Yes, Thomas Aquinas, of course, was the president of NBC before Fred Silverman.
Yes.
So, but this is a real saying, then.
It is a real saying. Phrase is also put on a Dutch commemorative medal celebrating Elizabethan England Protestant victory in 1588 over the Catholic Spanish Armada. Still don't quite get what it means.
See, this is the kind of information that we could give people if, there was a DVD, we could do like a commentary track, and then provide this kind of background information that the movie left out.
What is the meaning of this? According to dictionary.com, it's people can make plans. God determines how things will turn out. Okay. That's what we figured.
Yeah.
We're smart.
We got it more or less. Yeah. We should get through midway, you think, without failing after 10 years. You think we're doing all right?
Well, yeah. I don't know. I mean, we're not the most mischievous.
No, we've done pretty good. But I'd hate to think that after 10 years of podcasting, we've only got two directions to go. How about just staying on the course? We're not harming anything.
Yeah. How about just being one of those angels that just hangs out and like plays a harp?
Yeah. Yeah. That seems pretty cool.
Yeah.
It's kind of tough. I mean, I'd like these kids to have a chance to be kids every now and then. It's remarkable that Gary Coleman is so interested in others as he is.
Yes.
Matter of fact, I'm really surprised. This really seems like a big indictment of the whole system because he's shown enough ability that he should have been given a chance long before this.
Yeah.
He's an intelligent kid.
Yeah.
Ray Walston likes him.
Exactly.
Probably Blake's like just giving him like bad report cards every semester.
Yeah.
Totally like, messing with him.
Blake's the one who needs.
Yeah.
He definitely needs to. I think I'm sure that's Michael's greater purpose or the Mr. Carlson's greater purpose is that Blake will become more empathetic too.
Yeah. I think they're going to help each other.
Yes.
Yeah. What is it that Blake's actually giving Andy again? I mean, other than that, like explaining their powers in like 2 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah, he didn't really help him all that much. Did
No,
he? Yeah,
not really.
he provides like an excuse for him, I guess, to pull off some cons.
Yeah.
I don't know. Whereas in the other movies, it's easier to see. Like, you know what he is. He's a brilliant professor or a brilliant baseball tactician.
Yes.
But yeah, this one. But hey, Robert Guillaume is excellent as always.
Of course. Yeah.
I like this Guillaume Coleman, and let's give some props to Gary Coleman, who was one of the standout stars of the network during this period. Mm-hmm. They had this little mini franchise around him, and hopefully it did well. I'll try to get some more information. I'd like to get some ratings information about these movies, but yeah, the Kid trilogy, it's something else, and I enjoyed running this Gary Coleman gauntlet.
All right, thanks everyone who voted, and thanks everyone. We'll see you again next week.
This episode brought to you by Midway Academy. It's best if you don't think too much about it. This episode also brought to you by the Los Angeles Torpedoes. Our games change lives. This episode also brought to you by Jeff McNulty's Contraption in the Basement. It's best if you don't think too much about it. Join us next time for another exciting episode of Battle of the Network Shows. Learn more, leave feedback, and suggest future episodes at battleofthenetworkshows.com. Follow us on Twitter at BatNetShows, and like our Facebook page, facebook.com/BattleOfTheNetworkShows.